Let me save you from the number one thing that ruins a first Disney day: winging it. I've watched families spend thousands of dollars on a vacation and then walk through the gates with no real plan, wrong ride first, burnout hits by 2 o'clock, and they're done before the park even gets good. We've been doing this for over 30 years, and we've helped hundreds of families get it right. Today, we're giving you exactly what we give our clients: a step by step Magic Kingdom day that works. Stay with us because the nighttime move we're saving till the end, that's the one that makes people cry happy tears and book their next trip before they've unpacked. I'm Lee
And Lee,
with All About the Duck.
and the perfect Disney day starts before you ever set foot in the park. And this is where most first timers are already behind before the day even begins. For this plan, we're building a Magic Kingdom day. Because if it's your first time at Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom is the park. It's the one. The castle, the history, the rides, the atmosphere. This is where the trip starts. Now, I want to be upfront about something before we get into timing. We have another video on this channel that makes the case that rope drop isn't always necessary. And I stand by that. If you're a seasoned Disney visitor who knows the park, knows the crowds, and has a flexible approach, you have options. But for the first timer building their very first Magic Kingdom day, early arrival is your biggest advantage, and here's why. Set your alarm. I want you out of the resort room at least 1 hour before the park officially opens to the general public. If you're staying on Disney property and have access to early theme park entry, that 30-minute head start before the regular crowd arrives, even better. In that case, be at the park entrance 45 minutes before early entry begins. That first hour at Magic Kingdom is the most valuable hour of your entire day. It's the hour when the park is at the most manageable, the energy at its freshest, and you have that best chance of walking onto rides that will have hour-long waits by mid-morning. Protect it. Don't waste it. One more thing before you leave the room. Check the My Disney Experience app for the day's actual park opening time and confirm which rides are operating. Hours can vary, and specific attractions sometimes open later than the park itself. Know before you go.
When the park opens and crowds start moving, do not stop for pictures of the castle first. I know, the castle is right there, and it looks exactly like you imagine. And every instinct says to stop and take the photo. But if there are any lines, take it on the way out. Take it in the evening when the light is perfect and the crowd's the thinnest. Right now, you have a window, and that window is closing faster than you think. Here's where your morning splits into two strategies, and which one you choose depends on one question: what matters most to you today? Path A: it's the big ticket strategy. If Tron or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is on your must do list, this is your path. These are the biggest wait time generators at Magic Kingdom. Boat can hit 60 to 90-minute waits by 9:30 or 10 o'clock on a normal day. At Rope Drop, you can often walk on or wait 15 to 20 minutes. That difference, walking on versus 75 minutes, is exactly what early arrival buys you. Pick one, commit to it. And then there's Path B, the volume strategy. If the big headliners aren't your priority, maybe you have little ones, maybe you've ridden Tron before, this path is for you. During early theme park entry, before the general public gets in, the smaller classic attractions are nearly walk ons. Use that window to knock out 3 rides back to back to back with almost no waiting. Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean and Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin are all solid targets depending on your group. My personal route that I recommend is to head to Adventureland and knock out Jungle Cruise, Pirates, and Big Thunder Mountain. They're close together and get longer lines in the day. By the time the general crowd arrives, you've already got 3 rides under your belt. You've warmed up, and now you could flow into the rest of your morning without feeling behind. Neither plan is wrong, they just serve different groups. The key, either way, is the same: know your first move before you walk through the gates and commit to it. Hesitation at road drop is where the morning starts to slip.
Once your headliners are done and the park is starting to fill in, shift your approach. You're no longer racing, you're flowing. This is where you start working land by land rather than crisscrossing the park. The biggest efficiency mistake families make mid morning is bouncing from one side of Magic Kingdom to the other, chasing wait times. Every time you zigzag, you're burning 10 to 15 minutes of walking for potentially minimal gain. Stay in a land, finish what's there, and move to the next. A smart mid morning sequence might look like this: from Fantasyland, work into Liberty Square for Haunted Mansion. Go sooner than later. The line builds steadily through the morning. Then move into Adventureland for Pirates of the Caribbean and Jungle Cruise. Both are classics. Both are manageable mid morning, and they're geographically close. Use the walk by rule as you move through the park. If you're passing a ride with a sharp looking line and it's something you want to do, jump in. Don't wait for the perfect moment to come around again. At Disney, perfect moments are the ones you act on. Now, I want to pause here for a second because I've just given you a pretty detailed plan, and I need to say something important about that. This is a framework, not a script. Here's the thing: the families that struggle most at Disney aren't always the ones who showed up with no plan. Sometimes it's the ones who showed up with too much of one. Every hour mapped out, every ride sequenced perfectly. And then Haunted Mansion goes down for 20 minutes. A kid has a meltdown in Fantasyland, or you stumble into something unexpected and beautiful, and you just want to stay in that moment. Instead of enjoying it, they're stressed because it doesn't fit the plan. So take what I'm giving you, lock in the big pieces: your arrival time, your first move, your lunch window, your afternoon break, and then hold the rest loosely. If something looks fun and the line is short, do it. If your family needs 5 minutes to just sit on a bench and watch the world go by on Main Street, sit. The plan exists to protect your energy and your time, not to run your day. Disney has a way of giving you moments you didn't plan for. Leave room for them.
Here's one of the most consistently useful things I tell every first time family: eat lunch at 11 a.m., not noon. It sounds early, it feels early, and it is early, which is exactly the point. By noon, every quick service location at Magic Kingdom has a line. The dining rooms are packed. You spend 20 to 30 minutes waiting for food at the exact time of day when the park is at peak capacity and you could be riding something. At 11 a.m., the lunch rush hasn't started yet. Mobile order return windows are immediate or very close to it. You sit down, you eat, you're back in the park by 11:30 or 11:45, ahead of the crowd that's still building. Eat early, save time, keep moving.
Here it is: the single most important thing on this entire plan that most first timers refuse to do and regret it every time. After lunch, around 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., go back to your resort. I know how that sounds. You paid for the park. You want to be in the park. Leaving feels like losing time. Here's what's actually happening. At 1 p.m. at Magic Kingdom, the park is at its peak crowd level for the day. The Florida heat, if you're visiting in any month that isn't December through February, is at its most brutal. Kids who started the day energized are starting to run down. Adults, too. The patience that felt infinite at 8 a.m. has been slowly spent. The families that skip this break push through the afternoon on fumes. By 5 p.m., they're done, exhausted, overstimulated, starting to argue about small things. They leave before the evening, which is when Magic Kingdom becomes something genuinely extraordinary. The families that take a 2 to 3 hour resort break, they come back at 5 p.m. refreshed. They have energy for the evening. They last until the fireworks, and they walk out of the park at night having experienced the version of Magic Kingdom that makes people cry, happy tears, and book their next trip before they've even unpacked. If you're staying on property, this is one of the clearest advantages of on site resorts. Pool, rest, a quiet room, 20 minutes away from the park entrance. Use it. Take the break. Own the evening.
Come back to Magic Kingdom around 5 p.m. And the moment you walk through the gates again, you're going to feel the shift. The light is different. The heat has broken. The castle is starting to take on that golden late day glow that looks like nothing else in the world. The energy in the park has changed. It's slower, warmer, more relaxed. Families with young kids who pushed all day are starting to head out. The evening crowd is a different crowd, and the park feels like yours in a way that didn't at noon. This is when you hit the big rides you want to experience again, or the ones you didn't get to earlier. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, one of the best rides at Disney World in any condition. But something about it at night feels specifically right. Haunted Mansion is always better at night. That's not a preference, that's just a fact. You're not in a hurry, you're enjoying the park.
Here's the move. I promised you at the beginning of this video. When it's time for the fireworks, Disney Enchantment, or whatever the current nighttime spectacular is running during your visit, do not position yourself in the center hub directly in front of the castle. That's where everyone goes. It's packed, it's crowded. You're shoulder to shoulder from about 30 minutes before showtime. And when it's over, you're trying to exit through the same mass of people, all moving in the same direction. Instead, position yourself further back on Main Street, closer to the park entrance, maybe two-thirds of the way down from the castle. You still have a full view of the castle and the projections. You can still see the fireworks. The experience is not diminished. But here's the advantage. When the show ends, you're already most of the way to the exit. You beat the crowd out by several minutes. At Magic Kingdom after fireworks, several minutes is the difference between a short walk to the monorail or ferry and standing in a 30 to 45-minute exit queue. End your night on Main Street after the show. The shops stay open after park close. The crowds have started to move toward the exit. The music is playing. The castle is lit. Walk slowly. Take the photos you didn't have time for this morning. This is the moment. This is the memory.
So that was the perfect first timer Magic Kingdom day. Arrive early, your path at rope drop, land by land flow, early lunch, midday resort break, evening return, fireworks from the right spot. It's not complicated, but every piece of it matters. And the families who follow a plan like this come home talking about how the park felt magical and manageable instead of chaotic and exhausting. That's not luck, that's strategy. Just remember, the plan is the starting point, not the rule book. The best Disney days have a little structure and a lot of room. Lock in the big pieces and then let the park do what it does best. Because Walt Disney World has a way of surprising you when you're not gripping the schedule too tight. If this helped you, hit like and subscribe. We've got a full library of Disney planning content built for families who want to go in prepared. And tell me in the comments, what is the one ride you absolutely have to do for your perfect Magic Kingdom day? I read every comment and I'm genuinely curious how everyone's list looks. And as always, see
See
you
you
real
real
soon.
soon.